In the heart of the Galactic Training Academy orbiting the storm-racked planet Zeta Prime, a human woman named Lisa stood alone in the center of the combat ring, her dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, her academy jumpsuit damp with sweat. Around her, cadets from a dozen alien species watched in silence, their eyes gleaming with curiosity or contempt. Or both. Lisa was the only human in the entire academy, and humans were known across the stars as Deathworlders, creatures from a planet so violent and unpredictable that even seasoned warriors spoke of Earth with wary respect. But Lisa did not look like a monster. She looked small, quiet, almost fragile. The instructor, a massive Krellian with 4 thick arms and skin like cooled lava, stepped forward, his voice booming through the chamber. "Cadet Voss, you will demonstrate defensive counter-grapple against Cadet Tharn." He gestured to a towering Vorlax male whose exoskeleton shimmered with oily greens and blacks. Tharn stood, nearly 3 meters tall, his claws clicking together as he grinned, showing rows of jagged teeth. The crowd murmured some chuckling, softly expecting the human to be humiliated, or worse. Lisa gave a single nod and walked into the ring, her bare feet making no sound on the polished floor. Tharn wasted no time. He charged not with discipline but with brute force. His massive hand shot out and seized a thick handful of Lisa's hair, yanking her head back. Hard gasps rippled through the onlookers. A few laughed outright. It was a common insult among many species to grab an opponent's hair in mock dominance, especially against smaller foes. They expected tears or a plea for mercy, but Lisa did not cry. In one smooth motion, she dropped her center of gravity, twisted her spine, and drove her elbow straight into Tharn's wrist joint. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber. Tharn roared in pain, but before he could pull back, Lisa spun fully around. Using his own grip as leverage, she seized his wrist with both hands and snapped it sideways with brutal precision. Bone and chitin shattered like dry twigs. Tharn stumbled backward, clutching his ruined hand, blood oozing between his fingers. His roar turned into a whimper of shock. The room fell utterly silent. Even the instructor froze mid-step. Medical drones zipped in immediately, scanning the injury. One beeped sharply. Complete fracture of metacarpal cluster. Neural damage. Irreversible amputation recommended. The flat, mechanical voice hung in the air like a death sentence. Tharn stared at his mangled hand, then at Lisa, his rage flickering into something unfamiliar. Fear. Later, in the commandant's office, Lisa sat perfectly still on a hard bench, the room cool and dimly lit. The commandant, a tall, slender Sylph female with silver eyes and skin that seemed to ripple like liquid mercury, studied her from behind a wide obsidian desk. "You broke Cadet Tharn's hand over a hair pull," she said, her voice low and measured. "He grabbed my hair," Lisa replied simply. "On my world, that is not just an insult, it is a declaration of war." She did not raise her voice. She did not shift in her seat. "I showed restraint." The commandant tilted her head slightly. "Restraint. You shattered bone-severed nerves and ended his combat career." "I could have taken his throat," Lisa said, "or blinded him. I chose the hand because it committed the offense." A long silence stretched between them outside the panoramic window. Zeta Prime's endless storms churned in slow motion. Lightning flashing deep within its clouds, the commandant finally rose and walked to the window. "I have read your file, Cadet Voss, Earth Standard, age 21, born in a coastal city, wiped out during the 3rd Terraforming War. You survived 6 months alone in irradiated marshes, drinking rainwater, eating lizards, and dragging the corpses of 3 raiders behind you as warnings to others." Lisa said nothing, her hands resting calmly. "In her lap, you were brought here not as a student," the commandant continued, "but as an experiment. Can a Deathworlder learn order, or will she bring chaos?" She turned to face Lisa fully. "Today you answered that question." That night, Lisa returned to her small quarters, a sterile room with no windows, no personal effects except for one item she kept hidden in a sealed pouch inside her cot. She sat on the edge of the thin mattress and carefully unwrapped a faded photograph, water-stained. At the corners it showed a woman with kind eyes and a young girl standing barefoot on a sunlit beach. The woman was smiling. The girl was Lisa. She traced the image with her thumb, then tucked it back into the pouch and placed it beneath her pillow. Outside her door, a small group had gathered, not to jeer but to watch. They whispered among themselves, their earlier mockery gone, replaced by something like awe. One of them, a young insectoid cadet named Kix, stepped forward, holding out a sealed nutrient bar for you. Kix said, his voice trembling slightly. You fought like a true warrior. Lisa took it with a quiet nod. Thank you. From that day forward, the academy changed for Lisa. The whispers did not stop, but their tone shifted. She was no longer called the fragile human. Now they called her the Silent Storm. Some cadets began training near her, hoping to learn by observation. Others simply gave her wide berth, their eyes filled with respect rather than scorn. Weeks passed, and Lisa continued her routine. She ran obstacle courses designed for six-limbed species. She sparred with gravity-enhanced dummies. She studied xenolinguistics and tactical theory, but always alone, always quiet. She spoke only when necessary and never about herself. Then came the alerta. Priority distress signal burst through the Academy comms originating from Nix 7, a remote ice moon used for deep core mining. The last transmission showed signs of a Class Omega xenomorph incursion total, biological corruption. The entire station was likely already a hive. The Academy was assembling a rapid response team, and Lisa had been named field leader. The Commandant summoned her again, this time in the war chamber, a circular room lined with holographic displays showing fleet movements and threat assessments. This is not a drill, Cadet Voss, the Commandant said, her silver eyes sharp. Omega means the station is lost unless purged. You and your team will assess, neutralize, and if necessary, initiate total sterilization. Lisa nodded once. Understood. Her team consisted of 6 cadets, including Tharn, who now wore a sleek black cybernetic hand. He avoided her gaze but did not object to her command. The others were a mix of species, all top performers, all nervous. The dropship launched within the hour, screaming through Nix 7's thin, icy atmosphere turbulence, shaking its frame like a toy. They landed in the station's main hangar bay. Darkness greeted them only. Flickering emergency lights cast long red shadows across the floor. The air was bitingly cold and carried the stench of decay and something sweetly rotten, like overripe fruit left to rot in the sun. Lisa stepped out first, her pulse rifle raised, scanning the shadows. Stay sharp, she whispered over the comms. They hunt by heat and vibration. They moved through the corridors in formation. Bodies littered the floor, some torn apart, others fused to the walls, covered in pulsing organic matter that pulsed faintly with sickly green light. Tharn gagged but kept his weapon ready. Lisa's eyes never stopped moving. Every vent, every pipe, every shadow. Then the attack came. Not from one direction but from everywhere. The walls split open, and creatures poured out, black chitinous horrors with too many limbs, dripping maws, and eyes that glowed like dying stars. The team opened fire. Plasma bolts lit the corridor, but the creatures kept coming, screeching and clawing. Lisa did not panic. She barked orders. Kix, cover the rear. Tharn, left corridor, clear the vents. Her voice was calm, steady like stone. Tharn hesitated only a second, then fired his wrist-mounted plasma cutter into a vent just as a creature lunged out, vaporizing it. Mid-leap, Kix unleashed a sonic pulse that shattered 2 more in a spray of black ichor. But more kept coming. Lisa saw a cadet go down, his leg ripped off at the knee. She sprinted to him, grabbed his arm, and dragged him behind cover while firing 3 precise shots into the eyes of a leaping beast. It screeched and collapsed. Twitching, fall back to the reactor room. She ordered. We blow the core if we have to. They retreated, fighting every step. The reactor room was a massive chamber dominated by a glowing blue core in the center. Lisa slammed the heavy door shut and activated the manual lockdown. We hold here. The creatures slammed against the metal door, the sound like thunder. Tharn reloaded his weapon, his hands shaking. We cannot hold forever. We do not need forever, Lisa said. She walked to the core console and began inputting commands. I am setting a cascade overload, 10 minutes. The team stared at her. One cadet stammered, You would kill us all? Better than becoming food, Lisa replied. But I have another plan. She turned to Tharn. Your cyber hand can interface with the core's manual release, correct? He nodded slowly. Good, she said. When I say run, you open the release valve on the coolant line. It will flash freeze the corridor, giving us a path to the hangar. Tharn swallowed hard. And if it fails, then we die fast. Lisa said, better than being eaten alive. The pounding on the door grew louder, cracks spiderwebbing. Across the metal, Lisa watched the timer on her wrist. 3 minutes. Suddenly the door buckled. A massive creature forced its way through half its body, molten from the door's defensive plasma shields. It roared and charged. Lisa did not flinch. She fired not at the creature but at the ceiling above it. A support beam collapsed, crushing the beast under tons of metal. Now, she shouted. Tharn rushed to the coolant valve and slammed his cyber hand into the port. The system whined, then hissed. A cloud of supercooled gas exploded into the corridor. Freezing everything in its path, the creatures turned to ice statues. The quiet did not last. Lisa felt it first in her dreams. Not as a hum this time, but as a silence so deep it pulled at her bones. She woke aboard her ship, drifting near the edge of the Helios Nebula. The stars outside dimmed as if something vast had passed between them. She checked her sensors. Nothing registered, but the vine bracelet on her wrist grew warm, pulsing once like a heartbeat. She knew then the enemy had not been destroyed, only delayed, and this time, it would not come alone. A message arrived through official channels, this time not coded. Not hidden, a distress call from the Sylph homeworld, once a beacon of peace and knowledge, now silent for 17 cycles. The Sylph were telepaths. Their cities built not of stone, but of living, crystal that sang in harmony with their minds. If they had fallen, it meant the hollow ones had learned to silence thought itself. Lisa set course without hesitation. The journey took 6 days through warped space. Her ship humming softly, the blue lines along its hull glowing brighter with every light year she passed. She did not sleep much. She watched the stars and remembered the faces of those she had lost and those she had saved. When she arrived, the Sylph world hung in space like a broken jewel, its atmosphere thin, its surface scarred by black veins spreading from the poles. The orbital defenses were dark. No ships, no signals, only a low thrumming that made her teeth aches. He landed in what was once the capital city, now a forest of shattered crystal spires, their song replaced by a hollow drone. The air was cold and still, no wind, no birds, no life. Only the whisper of shifting dust. She moved through the ruins, her boots crunching on glass like ground. The silence pressed against her ears, like a weight. Then she saw them, Sylph bodies lying in the streets, not torn, not burned, but empty. Their silver eyes open, their skin gray as ash, their minds gone. In the center of the city stood a new structure, not built but grown, a tower of black crystal pulsing with the same violet light she had seen on Viridia 9. It rose high into the sky, humming with stolen song. Lisa approached slowly, her hand on her blade. She knew this was a trap, but she also knew she was the only one who could face. She tapped the base of the tower. A figure waited, tall, slender, unmistakably Sylph, but wrong. Its skin shimmered with violet instead of silver, its eyes empty, its mouth curved in a smile that held no joy. You came. It said, its voice smooth but layered. With countless others, we knew you would, the last guardian of the light. Where are they? Lisa asked, freed. It replied, from fear, from choice, from pain, we gave them peace. You took their song. Lisa said, we perfected it. The figure stepped closer. Join us, Lisa Voss, your will is strong, you could be the voice of the new harmony. She did not answer. She lunged. The fight was not of blades, but of minds. The figure struck not with fists, but with thoughts, memories twisted. Into weapons it showed her Earth burning, her mother screaming her failures on Nix 7, on Theta 9, on Viridia 9. It showed her all the lives lost because she had not been fast enough, strong enough, good enough. For a moment she faltered. Then, she remembered the vine bracelet, the carved figure. The child's trust, the Croth who bowed not in fear but in respect. She was not perfect, but she was hers. She pushed back, not with denial but with truth. Yes, she had failed. Yes, people had died. But she had also saved. She had stood when others ran. She had chosen to feel even when it hurt. The figure staggered, its violet light flickering. Lisa drove her blade into its chest, not to kill but to break the connection. The black tower shuddered. Deep, below the ground, something screamed. The stolen song returned, not as one voice, but as thousands rising from the empty bodies in the streets. The Sylph were waking, their crystal city beginning to hum again. soft at first, then stronger. The figure collapsed. Into dust. Lisa stood alone in the center of the reborn city. Breathing hard, the first notes of the Sylph song filled the air. Pure and clear, she did not stay to be thanked. She never did, back in orbit. She received a new message, this time from Earth. Not a distress call, but an invitation. The United Earth Council had rebuilt the old coastal academy. Not as a military school, but as a place of unity where humans and aliens trained not just to fight, but to understand each other. They wanted her to lead it. He almost refused, but then she thought of the child with the carved figure, the girl with the vine bracelet, the Croth, who chose freedom. Maybe it was time to teach, not just with actions but with words. She set course for home. The journey took weeks. She spent them not in silence but in reflection. She walked the ship's corridors, touching the blue lines that glowed in response as if they remembered the light too. When she arrived, Earth was greener than she remembered the oceans, calmer, the cities alive with a mix of species walking side by side. The new academy stood on the same beach where she had once played with her mother. Its walls built of white stone and living vines. The commandant, now retired, waited for her on the steps. "You came back," she said, her silver eyes warm. "I had nowhere else to be," Lisa replied. They walked the grounds together. Students of all kinds, training, sparring, studying. Some watched her with awe, others with curiosity, none with fear. That evening, Lisa stood on the beach. The sun setting over the water. She took out her old photograph and placed it on a smooth stone beside the carved figure and the vine bracelet. The waves lapped gently at her feet. A young human boy approached shyly. "Are you really the silent storm?" She looked at him. "I am just someone who tries." "Will you teach us?" he asked. "If you promise to listen," she said. He nodded and ran off to tell his friends. Lisa stayed until the stars came out the academy. Lights glowing behind her, the sound of laughter and training echoing in the night. For the first time in years, she felt not like a weapon, but like a bridge. But peace is never permanent as. She turned to go inside. Her wrist comm pulsed softly, not with a message, but with a feeling distant but growing, a new tear in the void opening near the galactic core this time. Not one enemy, but many drawn by the light she had awakened. She did not panic. She went inside and began preparing her lesson for tomorrow. Because the storm does not end, it teaches. The signal came not through comms but through dreams, a low hum that echoed in the back of Lisa's mind like a forgotten song. She woke on the desert moon of Kalis 5, her ship resting in a dry riverbed under twin suns, the air hot and still. She sat up slowly, her hand going to the small carved figure the child had given her. It lay on the rock beside her, untouched by wind or dust. She knew then the time had come again. She did not wait for orders. She launched her ship and set course for the source of the hum, a dead zone in the outer rim where no stars shone and sensors failed. The journey took days through silent space. The ship's new blue lines glowing faintly as if guiding her when she arrived. There was nothing, only blackness, a void where light itself seemed to vanish. Then the ship shuddered. A shape emerged from the dark. Not a ship, not a planet, but a wound in space. A tear that pulsed with sickly violet light from it. Poured not Croth, but something worse, twisted versions of them, their bodies fused with metal and bone. Their eyes burning with cold intelligence, they moved in perfect unison. No chaos, no rage. Only purpose. Eliza recognized it immediately. Hive mind, but not natural engineered. She dropped into the nearest habitable world, a jungle planet called Viridia 9, its canopy thick and green, the air heavy with moisture. She landed near a small settlement of refugees, humans and aliens hiding from the war. They had seen the void ships too and called them the Hollow Ones. An old man named Elias met her at the edge of the village, his face lined with worry. "They took our scouts," he said. "Not killed, not eaten, just taken. And when they came back, they were empty shells repeating one word over and over." "What word?" Lisa asked. "Awaken." She knew then the truth. The Croth had not returned. They had been consumed by something older, something that used them as vessels, the same force that had whispered from the ice planet, the same presence that watched. From between stars, it was not just coming. It was already here. That night Lisa walked the perimeter, her boots silent on wet soil, the jungle alive with sounds of insects and distant calls. She felt eyes on her but saw nothing. Then a rustle in the bushes. She spun her blade out but stopped. A young girl stood there no older than 10. Her skin marked with tribal paint, her eyes wide but not afraid. "You are the storm," the girl said. "Who told you that?" Lisa asked. "The trees." The girl replied, "They say you carry the light." Lisa did not understand, but she nodded. The girl handed her a woven bracelet of vines and bone, for protection, then vanished into the dark at dawn. The Hollow Ones attacked, not with ships, but with silence. They dropped from the sky in black pods that made no sound, landing in the village square. The refugees screamed and ran. But Lisa stood her ground. The Hollow Ones moved toward her. Their steps perfectly synchronized, their faces blank masks of former beings. She fought not with fury but with focus. Every strike precise, every movement efficient. She cut through 3 before the rest retreated, not in fear but in calculation. They had tested her and found her strong. Back in the village, the elders gathered around a fire. "They are building something," Elias said. "Deep in the northern mountains we hear machines running day and night." Lisa knew what it was. A beacon, a device to tear the void wider and let the true enemy through. She left. At dusk, the girl's bracelet on her wrist, the jungle closing around her. She moved like a shadow through the canopy, leaping from branch to branch, silent and swift. The mountains rose ahead, jagged and dark, the air growing colder with every step, and the base of the tallest peak she found the entrance, a massive hole in the rock, humming with unnatural energy. Guards patrolled outside. Not Hollow Ones, but living Croth, enslaved and collared, their eyes dull with pain. Lisa waited until the moon rose, then struck. She took out the guards with silenced darts. Not killing but disabling, their collars sparked and fell away. The freed Croth looked at her not with hate but with confusion. She pointed to the mountain, and they understood they had been prisoners too. Together they entered the tunnel. Inside, the mountain was hollowed out, a vast chamber filled with machinery pulsing with violet light. In the center floated a massive sphere, identical to the one on the ice planet but corrupted black, veins running through its surface. It was not a seed of light but a seed of hunger, and before it stood a figure, tall, human-shaped but wrong. Its skin, pale, its eyes glowing the same violet as the tear in space. It turned and smiled. "Lisa Voss," it said in a voice that was many voices at once. "You carry the light. We saw you on the ice world. We watched you on Earth. We waited for you to grow strong enough to be useful." "What are you?" Lisa asked. "We are the end of fear," it replied. "We consume chaos and replace it with perfect order. No more war, no more pain, no more choice, only peace." "That is not peace," Lisa said. "That is death." The figure laughed. "You will join us willingly or be broken." It raised a hand and the Hollow Ones surged from the walls. Lisa did not fight them. She ran straight for the sphere. The Croth she had freed held off the Hollow Ones, buying her time. She reached the platform and placed her hands on the corrupted sphere. Instantly her mind was flooded with visions, galaxies burning, civilizations erased not by violence but by surrender, trillions choosing silence over struggle. The figure had been right in a way. It offered peace, but at the cost of everything that made life worth living. Then she felt it. The faint echo of the true light, the one from the ice planet. It was still there, deep inside the corruption. A spark waiting to be freed. She closed her eyes and remembered. The beach, the ocean, the smell of salt and Sunmaya's last tear tharns. Nod of respect, the child's carved figure. The girl's vine bracelet. She remembered why she fought, not to destroy but to protect, the right to feel, to choose, to be afraid and do it anyway. She poured that memory into the sphere. The corruption shuddered, the violet light flickered. The figure screamed as cracks spread across its form. The black veins turned blue, then white. The sphere pulsed once, bright and pure, and the tear in space began to close. The Hollow Ones collapsed, their bodies turning to dust. The enslaved Croth fell to their knees, free at last. Lisa stood alone in the chamber, breathing hard. The sphere, now calm and silent, floated gently in the air. It drifted to her and touched her forehead one last time, showing her a single image. A new star being born in the void, then it vanished. She walked out of the mountain as dawn broke over Viridia 9. The sky clear, the air clean. The refugees gathered at the edge of the jungle watching her approach. Elias stepped forward. "Is it over?" "Now," Lisa said. The freed Croth bowed to her, not in worship but in gratitude, then turned and vanished into the jungle to find their own path. Lisa returned to her ship, the vine bracelet still on her wrist. She did not go back to Alliance space. She knew they would want answers. She knew they would try to control what she had seen. But some truths were not meant to be owned. She flew deeper into the frontier, not running, not hiding, but watching. Weeks turned to months. She visited quiet worlds, teaching, not with words but with presence, showing young fighters that true strength was not in never falling, but in always rising again. On a world of floating islands, she met Claire again, now a captain with her own ship. "They speak of you everywhere," Claire said. "Some say you are a myth." "Good," Lisa replied. "Myths keep people hoping." One evening, as she sat on the edge of a sky island watching clouds drift below her, a message arrived, not through comms but through the ship's new blue lines, a single symbol, the same one from the ice planet. It pulsed softly, then faded. She knew what it meant. The light was not gone, it was spreading, and somewhere out there, another Deathworlder would rise, another silent storm would form, and the cycle would continue. But for now the stars were quiet lies. So stood and walked back to her ship. The twin suns of Kalis 5 setting behind her, casting long shadows across the desert. She did not look back. She never did. The silent storm was not a person. It was a promise, and promises do not end. The distress call came from a world with no name, only a catalog number, KX447, a frozen planet on the far rim of known space where the Galactic Alliance had lost contact with a deep-range science outpost. Lisa arrived alone this time. No team, no backup, just her pulse rifle, her thermal cloak, and the quiet hum of her drop pod as it punched through the planet's thin, icy atmosphere. The surface was a wasteland of jagged glaciers and howling winds that cut like knives. She landed near the outpost's last known coordinates, the structure half buried in snow, its domes cracked and dark. She moved carefully, her boots crunching on permafrost, her breath fogging in the cold air. The silence was wrung too deep. No wind, no animal sounds, just the groan of shifting ice. She reached the main airlock and found it sealed from the inside. A bad sign. She cut through the manual override with her blade and slipped inside. The interior was colder than outside, frost coating every surface. The lights were dead, but her helmet sensors picked up faint heat signatures deep in the lower levels. She followed them down a spiral staircase, her rifle ready. The walls were lined with strange markings. Not Croth, not any known species. Claw marks, but precise, almost ritualistic, in the central lab. She found the scientists, or what was left of them, their bodies arranged in a circle, frozen in place, their faces locked in expressions of terror. Not pain, but awe, as if they had seen something too vast to comprehend. Their data pads were still active. She accessed one and played the last logo woman with wild gray hair and bloodshot eyes. Stared into the camera. "We were wrong," she whispered. "The signal is not artificial, it is alive. It is calling, and it is waking something beneath the ice, something older than stars." The feed cut to static. Lisa turned off the pad and listened. The ice groaned again, but this time it was different. A low vibration rising from deep below, like a heartbeat. She checked. Her comm. No signal. The planet's magnetic field was too strong. She was on her own. Then the walls moved, not collapsed, not broke, but shifted as if the ice itself had muscles. The markings glowed faint blue and the floor tilted. Lisa rolled to the side just as a section of wall opened, revealing a tunnel sloping downward into darkness. Warm air rose from it, carrying a scent like ozone and wet stones. She hesitated only a second, then stepped inside. The tunnel led deep into the planet's crust. The temperature rose with every meter. The ice gave way to smooth black stone carved with the same markings now pulsing with soft light. The air grew thick, heavy with energy that made her skin tingle. Her sensors went haywire, then died. She was blind, except for her eyes at the bottom. She found a chamber vast and circular. Its ceiling lost in shadow. In the center floated a sphere of pure light. Not fire, not plasma, but something else. It hummed with a sound that resonated in her bones. She approached. Slowly the light spoke not in words but in feelings. Images flooded her mind, a ship falling from the sky, not built but grown, a species of light and thought, seeding worlds not to conquer but to awaken. They had slept here for eons, waiting for a mind strong enough to hear them. Then came the warning. Another presence stirred in the dark. Not the light, but something that had been feeding on it. A parasite born from the scientists' fear their experiments had cracked the seal and let it in. It took their minds, their bodies, and now it wanted more. The chamber walls split open and figures emerged. Not Croth, not human, but twisted mockeries of the scientists. Their eyes hollow, their limbs too long, they moved with jerky, unnatural grace. Lisa raised her rifle, but knew bullets would not work here. This was not a fight of flesh, but of will. The light sphere pulsed brighter, sending a wave of calm through her. It showed her the truth. The parasite fed on fear, so she had to feel none. She dropped her rifle, let it clatter to the floor, and stood tall. The creatures lunged. She did not dodge, she did not flinch. She remembered the beach, the ocean, the smell of salt and sun. She remembered Maya's last tear. She remembered Theron's nod of respect. She remembered why she fought, not for glory, not for revenge, but because someone had to stand. The first creature reached her, and its claws passed through her like smoke. It shrieked in confusion. She was not afraid. One by one, they dissolved into mist, their forms unraveling as the light sphere expanded, filling the chamber with warmth and clarity. The parasite let out a final wail of rage, then vanished, consumed by the light. Silence returned. The sphere drifted closer and touched her forehead. For a moment she saw galaxies being born, stars dying, civilizations rising and falling, all connected by a single thread of courage. The light was not a weapon. It was a choice, and it had chosen her. When she returned to the surface, the storm had stopped. The sky was clear, stars sharp and bright. She found her drop pod still intact, but changed the metal, now etched with faint blue lines that glowed softly. She climbed in and launched without looking back. Back at Alliance High Command, they debriefed her, but she said little, only that the threat was neutralized and the planet was safe. They wanted to send a team to study the site. She refused. Some things are not meant to be studied, she said, only respected. The commandant watched her. With new eyes. You are different. I saw what we are part of. Lisa replied. Not just fighters, not just survivors, but guardians. Weeks later, a new call came, this time from the heart of Alliance space, the capital world, Astra Prime, under siege not by Croth, but by something worse. A splinter faction of Alliance officers led by Admiral Croft, a once respected commander who had turned, believing that only absolute control could save the galaxy. He had seized the Central Fleet and declared martial law. Lisa was summoned not as a soldier but as a symbol. The people whispered her name in the streets, Silent Storm. The human who walked through hives and faced ancient lights. They needed her to stand against tyranny. She arrived on Astra Prime. In secret meeting with the resistance in the undercity tunnels, Claire was there now. A lieutenant with fire in her eyes. We cannot fight the fleet, she said, but we can cut the head. They planned to infiltrate the orbital command station, where Croft held court. Lisa would go alone again. She wore no armor this time, only a dark suit and a blade hidden in her sleeve. The station was guarded by elite Marines loyal to Croft, but they were still flesh and blood. She boarded a maintenance shuttle and slipped through the lower decks, moving like a ghost past patrols, past scanners, past fear. She reached the command deck and found Croft standing before a massive window, watching his fleet burn, rebel ships below. He turned when she entered. I knew you would come, he said, voice calm. The legend herself. You are hurting your own people. Lisa said, I am saving them. He snapped. Chaos is coming. The Croth, the void. The things beyond stars we need. Order, not freedom. Order. Without choice is a cage, Lisa replied. He drew a sidearm, but she was faster. She closed the distance in 3 steps, disarmed him and pressed her blade to his throat. "Stand down," she said, "or become another ghost." He laughed. "You will. Not kill me. The people need a trial." "I am not here for justice," Lisa said. "I am here for peace." She did not kill him. She activated the station's emergency broadcast and forced him to announce his surrender live to the entire system. His voice shaking as he admitted his crimes, the fleet stood down without a shot. Afterward, the Alliance offered her a seat on the High Council. She refused. "I am not a ruler," she said. "I am a watcher." She returned to the frontier, but not to fight this time. She traveled from world to world, teaching not combat but courage, showing young soldiers that strength was not in the fist, but in the choice to protect, not to dominate. On a quiet moon, orbiting a blue giant, she met an old friend, Thar, now a commander in his own right. "You have changed," he said. "We all do." She replied. "Do you ever rest?" he asked. She looked at the stars. "When the storm ends." But the storm never ends. One evening, as she sat by a campfire on a nameless world, a child approached holding a small carved figure of a woman with a ponytail. "Is this you?" the child asked. Lisa took the figure and turned it in her hands. "It is someone who tries." The child smiled and ran off. Lisa placed the figure on a rock beside her and watched the flames dance, the firelight reflected in her eyes. Steady calm, unbroken. Far away in the dark between stars, something stirred again, a signal faint but growing. The Kroth were returning, not as they were, but changed, twisted by something older. Something that had watched from the void and now saw Earth not as a death world but as a key. Lisa felt it in her bones. The quiet hum of approaching war. She stood, brushed the ash from her coat and walked toward her ship, the silent storm ready to rise again. The frontier war zone stretched across 3 star systems, a jagged scar of burning planets and shattered fleets, where the Galactic Alliance fought the Kroth Hive, a relentless swarm of bioengineered horrors that consumed worlds and turned them into breeding grounds for more monsters. Lisa arrived aboard the carrier vessel, Ares Dawn, not as a cadet anymore, but as a field commander. Her name now whispered with a mix of awe and dread among both allies and enemies. She wore a modified combat suit lined with reactive armor and carried a pulse rifle that had seen more firefights than most veterans. Her first assignment was Outpost Theta 9, a listening post on the edge of the void near the dead star Helios remnant. The outpost had gone silent 3 days ago, and recon drones showed signs of Kroth activity crawling over its hull like black mold. Lisa led a strike team of 12 soldiers this time. Not cadets, hardened veterans from 6 different species, all of them watching her, not with doubt but with quiet expectation. They had heard the stories about the human who broke a Vorlax's hand over a hair pull, who froze a xenomorph corridor with ice, and walked out of a dying station without looking back. The drop shuttle detached from the Ares Dawn and plunged through the thin atmosphere of Theta 9's moon, a barren rock with no name, only coordinates. The landing was rough dust and debris, swirling around the hull as the engines cut out. Lisa was the first out, her boots crunching on gray regolith, her helmet visor scanning for heat signatures. Nothing moved. The outpost loomed ahead, a cluster of domes and towers half buried in ash, its comms array bent like a broken spine. "Stay tight," she said over the squad channel. "Kroth do not leave things empty, they leave traps." They moved in formation. Lisa at point, her rifle sweeping left and right. The air was still too still, the kind of silence that pressed against the ears like cotton inside the main airlock. The doors were sealed but not locked. A bad sign. Lisa overrode the manual release with a data spike. The hiss of equalizing pressure sounded unnaturally loud. Inside the corridors were dark emergency lights flickering weakly. The walls were coated in a thin layer of black resin, pulsing faintly like a slow heartbeat. One of the soldiers, a reptilian named Voss, hissed through his teeth, "Hive residue, they have been here long enough to start conversion." Lisa nodded. "Find the command center. See if the core logs survived." They split into 2 teams. Lisa took 3 with her, including Tharn, who now served under her by choice. Not order. His cybernetic hand whirred softly as he checked his weapon. He had not spoken much since Nyx 7, but his loyalty was clear in the way he watched her back. They found the command center deep in the lower levels. The door was warped inward, as if something huge had forced its way out inside. The room was a nightmare. Consoles melted into organic, shapes chairs fused with bone-like growths, and in the center, a massive egg sac pulsed with wet rhythmic throbs. "Back up," Lisa whispered. Too late, the sac split open. Not with a burst, but with a slow wet tear. And from it emerged, not a monster, but a figure humanoid, pale and trembling, covered in slick fluid. It turned and Lisa's breath caught in her throat. It was a human. A woman, her face gaunt, her eyes wide and empty. She wore tattered remains of an Alliance uniform. Name tag half-eaten. Away but still readable, Maya. Lisa breathed the name like a prayer. Maya had been the outpost commander and Lisa's former instructor back at the academy before she volunteered for deep frontier duty. Maya's head tilted slowly, her mouth opened, but no words came, only a low gurgle. Then her spine arched and black tendrils shot from her back, slamming into the walls. She screamed. Then her eyes turned solid black. "She is infected," Tharn said. Raising his weapon, "Do not fire." Lisa ordered, stepping forward. "Not yet." Maya lunged, not with speed but with unnatural grace. Her fingers elongating into claws, Lisa sidestepped and caught her wrist, twisting it gently. "Maya, it is me, Lisa Voss. Do you remember the beach on Earth? You took me there when I was 12. You said the ocean would wash away fear." For a second, Maya froze, her black eyes flickered with something human. A memory, a tear welled in her left eye. Then the Croth mind reasserted control, and she screeched, lashing out with terrifying force. Lisa blocked the strike, but the impact sent her skidding back. "She is gone," Tharn said, voice tight. Lisa looked at Maya one last time, then nodded. "Neutralize." Tharn fired a single plasma round clean through Maya's chest. The body collapsed, the black tendrils shriveling instantly. The room fell silent again, heavier now, in the ruins of the console. Lisa found the core log. She jacked in her data spike and downloaded everything. The last entry was Maya's, voice weak but clear. "They came from below. The moon is not dead. It is a shell, a hollow egg. The Croth Queen is beneath us. She is waking. Do not let her rise." Lisa stood slowly. "We are not on a moon," she said. "We are on a nest." The team regrouped in the hangar. Lisa explained what she learned. The Croth had not just infested the outpost, they had been using the entire moon as a cradle for their queen. A creature so massive it could birth entire fleets. The tremors they felt were not seismic, they were her breathing. "We cannot fight that," one soldier said, voice shaking. "We do not have to." Lisa said, "We wake her early before she is ready. Then we collapse the chamber on top of her." It was a suicide plan, but no one argued. They had seen what Lisa could do. They trusted her. They planted seismic charges along the main support columns deep in the moon's crust. The tunnels were slick with organic slime and filled with skittering young Croth. But the team moved, like ghosts. Lisa leading with calm precision, every step calculated, every breath measured. When the last charge was set, Lisa gave the order. "Detonate in 5. They ran the tunnels, began to shake before the first explosion. The Queen was stirring. The walls pulsed and split open, revealing massive eyes the size of dropships watching them flee. Lisa did not look back. She counted down in her head. 3 twoon. The charges blew not with fire, but with focused kinetic force. The moon's crust cracked, like an eggshell. The Queen's roar shook space itself, but it was too late. The ceiling collapsed, burying her under billions of tons of rock and metal. The team reached the shuttle just as the surface began to cave in. They launched seconds before. The entire moon imploded into a swirling cloud of dust and debris. Back on the Ares dawn, Lisa stood in the observation blister, watching the aftermath. The commandant's voice came over the secure channel. "You did it again, Silent Storm." "I had good people," Lisa replied. "You always do," the commandant said. "But do not think the war is over. The Croth will send more. They always do." Lisa knew that, but for now there was quiet. Weeks passed and Lisa trained new recruits not with words but with presence. She showed them how to move, how to listen, how to fight. Not with rage but with purpose. One young human named Claire asked her why she never smiled. "Smiling is for after." Lisa said, "Not during." Then came the call from Earth, a priority message sealed with the old United Earth Council emblem. Lisa opened it alone in her quarters. The image flickered to life. An old man with tired eyes and a scar across his cheek. Lisa Voss, if you are seeing this, then the worst has happened. The Kroth have found Earth. They are coming not for conquest but for harvest. They know what we are. They want our rage, our will, our death, world spirit to breed a new kind of warrior. The message ended with coordinates and a single word. Come. Lisa did not hesitate. She requested immediate transfer to the Sol system. The commandant approved without question. Go, she said, and remind them why they fear your kind. The journey took 6 days through folded space. Lisa spent them in silence, sharpening her blade, checking her gear, and staring at the photograph of her and her mother on the beach. She did not sleep much. Earth was not as she remembered it. The oceans were higher cities, half submerged, but life still clung to the coasts, green shoots pushing through cracked concrete, children playing in the shadow of war machines. The Kroth fleet hung in orbit like a storm cloud. Waiting, Lisa landed in what was left of San Diego, her boots sinking slightly in wet sand. She was met by a resistance leader, a woman named Dana with a cybernetic arm and fire in her eyes. You came, Dana said. I live here, Lisa replied. They showed her the plan. The Kroth had landed a seed pod in the Pacific Trench. It was growing fast, forming a hive heart that would soon awaken and turn the entire planet into a Kroth world. They needed someone to go deep, someone who could move like a ghost and strike, like lightning. Lisa nodded. I will go. They gave her a submersible. Built from old Navy tech and new alien alloys, it was small, fast, and silent. She piloted it alone, diving into the dark, cold depths. The pressure mounted. The deeper she went, the ocean groaning around her. At the bottom, the hive heart pulsed like a second sun, a massive organic orb covered in veins of black and red tendrils snaking out into the seabed. Feeding on the planet's core, Lisa armed her thermal lance and swam out of the sub. The Kroth guards came fast, sleek and fast in the water, their claws slicing through the current. Lisa moved like a shadow, twisting, dodging, striking with brutal economy. She did not waste motion. Every move had purpose. She reached the heart and drove the lance deep into its core. It screamed a sound that vibrated through the water and up into the sky. The hive began to collapse. Lisa swam for the surface, the sub behind her, crushed by the implosion. She broke the surface. Gasping, the sky above was clearing. The Kroth fleet, retreating in chaos. The heart was dead.